A Modern Day Cain and Abel by Gabe Diamond. This is a story about two best friends living in Los Angeles, California. They had been friends since elementary school. Solomon Kane was the athlete. He was always good at every sport he tried. By the time he hit high school, he became the starting quarterback as a freshman and a captain by his sophomore year. He was the most popular kid in school, and everyone wanted to be his friend. He was the life of the party, and everything appeared to come easy to Solomon. His best friend, Benjamin Abel, was brilliant. School came so easy to him. His 4.0 GPA throughout high school was something Solomon envied. Ben would apply to all the top schools with his eyes set on Stanford, the school his father went to. The story, however, does not begin at the end of high school, but at the beginning of their senior year. Ben and Saul were best friends and did everything together. Unfortunately, on one fateful night, tragedy struck, and their lives would change forever. Solomon was so excited going into his senior year. Everything was looking bright. Football season was about to start, and there were some big colleges coming to recruit him, namely USC. As a senior, he would rightfully claim his title as the king of St. Mary's High School. Benjamin was looking forward to begin his senior year. Benjamin loved high school. He loved working hard and being the top student in his class. He knew that in a few short months he would be accepted into Stanford, and his life would be progressing the way he planned. Ben's parents were so proud of all he had accomplished academically and everything that he was going to accomplish this upcoming year. They spoiled him with a new BMW and almost anything he wanted. Benjamin lived a life of luxury, but was rewarded for his hard work. Personally, he loathed his inability to play sports, but if that were to be the only major flaw in his life, he figured so be it. Solomon's parents, however, did not necessarily approve of his lifestyle. Both of his parents were well-educated people, with his father, Adam, attending Duke, and his mother, Eve, attending NYU. They did not see athletics as a career choice and despised their son's refusal to focus more on his studies over football. Solomon's family was not as well-to-do as Ben's. While still living an upper-middle-class lifestyle, Solomon was not afforded the same luxuries as Ben. Saul's parents always compared him to Ben, and for a while he could take it and just nod his head and say, "Okay, Mom, okay, Dad, sure." This sort of back-and-forth exchange would become less civilized as Solomon got older. Solomon started to hate his parents for their constant disappointment in his life choices. He never told any of this to Ben, so as far as he was concerned, Solomon was still the most popular kid in high school with everything going right. Solomon and Ben never really fought before. Sure, a small disagreement here or there, but nothing to the point where it ever affected their friendship. One night the two of them were hanging out like normal, and Ben said to Solomon, "Dude, do you understand how awesome it would be to be you? I mean, everyone in school loves you. All the guys want to be you, and all the girls want to be with you. I wish I could know what that feeling is like." Solomon just sort of shrugged his shoulders and in a low, grim voice said, "Yeah, man, it's pretty sweet." Ben could tell something was wrong, but didn't want to force the issue, so he just dropped the subject. This would be the first time Ben noticed a change in the usually upbeat Solomon's demeanor. A few weeks into the season, Benjamin's year was going exactly to plan. His grades were stellar, and his application to Stanford was in. All he had left to do was to sit back, wait, and continue to work hard. Solomon, however, was not seeing as much luck on the football field. The previous All-American quarterback was struggling mightily through 4 games, severely hurting his chances of playing football. Now, his parents would never admit to it, but deep down they knew ultimately this was best for Solomon. Solomon always had the feeling that he was playing right into his parents' hands, too. This added pressure to have to be perfect just so he could play football really impacted his performance. He started to doubt himself in every decision on and off the field. Solomon had never doubted himself with anything before. And once that sense of doubt crept into his head, his psyche would take a turn for the worse. Solomon just liked to party just as much as any high school senior, but drinking never really affected his school life or his athletic career. As the years started to progress, however, his bad habits continued to negatively affect his life. He started showing up to school late, sometimes even skipping class. He was losing all of his offers to play football, and in his mind, life was in a downward spiral he just couldn't control. Solomon couldn't handle the pressure he placed on himself, and in addition to the constant disappointment from his parents. Meanwhile, Benjamin was doing just fine. Due to hear back from Stanford any day. The pressure was mounting, but other than that stress of Stanford, everything seemed to be going all right. Ben did notice that his best friend was losing himself, and he was afraid that he would have to intervene with him, something he had never had to do before. Now, Ben never really saw the issues between Solomon and his parents, and it was something that Saul was too prideful to talk about. He could never appear weak in front of Ben. In Ben's eyes, Solomon was just not his best friend, but represented everything he could never be. They complemented each other in every way, and in Ben's perspective, that was why they were best friends. He didn't realize the constant struggle that Solomon was going through. He never knew that his parents were constantly comparing him to Solomon. It was tough for him to then grasp how he could help because he truly never knew the problem. Solomon hated being compared to Ben all the time, and it really started to make him act out. He was skipping class more, he wasn't going home on some days. His parents were in denial about his situation and continued to berate him with comparisons to Ben. Solomon just couldn't handle it anymore. His jealousy of Ben and the easier life he was living manifested itself to the eventual demise of both boys. On Friday, November 13th, Benjamin Abel received his acceptance letter from Stanford. It was the culmination of all of his hard work. Everything he earned had once again worked out for Benjamin. The only thing he wanted to do was celebrate with his best friend his best friend Solomon. He called up Solomon and told him the good news. At first, of course, Saul was happy for his best friend. He congratulated him on the phone and promised they would go out later to celebrate. Once he was off the phone, however, he quickly became filled with rage and jealousy. He screamed, "Why does everything always work out for him? He always gets what he wants. And not only do his parents love him, mine do too. I'm sick of this bullshit." Later that night, Solomon and Benjamin went to a party. They were getting drunk, celebrating Solomon getting into Stanford. Solomon drove to the party, so he promised Ben he would only have a beer so that Ben could celebrate worry-free. Ben placed his trust in Solomon. He placed his life in Solomon's hands. He never worried that this trust would ever be broken. Solomon ended up getting way too drunk, drinking out of anger and jealousy, just to forget about his problems. Benjamin was the drunkest he had ever been, and asked Solomon to drive him home. Saul, keeping calm, said, "Sure," knowing that he had had way too much to drink. On their drive home, Ben started to ask Saul why he'd been throwing away his senior year and what was going on. This really pissed off Saul. He started driving really fast and screamed, "Why the hell should I tell you? You wouldn't know half the shit I have to go through always being compared to you. I resent you and your perfect life. We are no longer He couldn't even finish the sentence. At that moment, crash. Solomon drove through a red light and another car going perpendicular to him rammed into the passenger side of the car, killing his best friend on impact. Solomon was knocked unconscious. When he awoke, he was handcuffed to the bed with his parents and policemen around him. He could hear Benjamin's parents crying outside his hospital door. He didn't know what happened, and he started freaking out. As the police started to explain to him what had happened and what the process was going forward, Solomon cut off the officer and screamed at his parents, "This is your fault. You made me resent my best friend. I was never going to be like him. I was never going to be your perfect little student, and you could never accept that." Solomon's refusal to accept what he had done was the culmination of his downfall. He had truly hit rock bottom. In a few months, he had gone from the king of St. Mary's High School to a confused young boy arrested for killing his best friend. In short, the easy lesson can be taken as, never drink and drive. But the deeper lesson is one of jealousy and rage. Solomon could not get past the fact that he believed his parents loved Benjamin more than their own son. Rage and jealousy led Solomon Cain down this dark path, and his life was ruined because of it.